Let's get into it now. A spoiler-free movie review. Today we're talking about Sometimes I Think About Dying. I love that title. I like looking at a poster and immediately getting an emotion. And that title really says it all about what this movie is about. You have Daisy Ridley, who I love. You probably know her as Rey from the Star Wars movies. And despite what you read online from nerds who look like me, but have a much different opinion on those movies, because I love Daisy Ridley in those movies. They really made me love Star Wars, which, if you see what anybody says about those movies, they ruined them. I think those movies are great, and a lot of that is due to her performance in those films. So I was excited to see her outside of a Star Wars movie because she has done other movies since then, but she's kind of been in this sci-fi action genre that obviously after being in Star Wars, she naturally be cast in, but I wanted to see the more dramatic side of her. And in this movie, she plays a character named Fran. She's this very socially awkward, depressed woman working at this small office in Oregon. And even though she's been working at this place for so long, she has a hard time bonding with her coworkers. But then comes the day where somebody who has been working in the office for a long time retires, and a new guy comes in, and they start to form a relationship. They go out on a date, and the entire movie is her trying to pursue a friendship, maybe a little bit of a romance, but really having a hard time in doing so because throughout the entire film, she is, well, doing what the title says, thinking about dying. Now, I found this movie to be very, very personal because I saw a lot of myself in Fran's character. The socially awkward part of it I thought was illustrated so beautifully. And how the movie does it is it has a very slow pace to it, but it's slow paced on purpose. When you're socially awkward, it is hard for you to have conversations with people. I can sit here right now in this studio and have a conversation with you looking into this camera, talking into this microphone. But if you took me out of this situation and put me in a room with 5 people, maybe 5 coworkers, I would have a hard time. At work, I am known as the quiet person. I've had that title ever since I was in school, and it's not something I take pride in. I would love to walk into a room and immediately own it and be the center of attention, but that has just never been me. And that is exactly what I saw in Fran's character, because throughout this film, she is longing for that. She is trying to connect with people and wants to, like, goes out of her way to do so, but she just doesn't have the tools to communicate. And sometimes the things she says don't come across the way that she intended them to. So even though she's not a bad person whatsoever, she just lacks those skills. And I found that completely like, oh, that is me. That is me to a T. And then you have the eternal sadness that she is facing and hiding from other people, which is something that, I mean, I've talked about in this episode of how much depression and anxiety has been a part of my life, and going to therapy has really helped me with that. But I really felt like the film did a great job of showing what that feels like without it feeling inherently sad. Because I won't say that this is a depressing movie, even though it has a super depressing title and our character is obviously going through something here. But there are moments of levity that bring life to the situation, and it's not trying to present it of here's just this sad girl doing all these sad things. It is showing it in such a realistic way that found it very enjoyable to me. But again, it has that slow pace that really puts you in the perspective and in the shoes of Fran. While watching this, you may think, okay, move it on a little bit. But if you let yourself live in that, you realize this is how this person is feeling. Those big, long, awkward pauses are the things that I have built my entire life on. I am just trying to fill those big, long, awkward pauses when talking to people. And that is what this movie shows. It also just looks fantastic. The movie was shot in a small town in Oregon called Astoria, where other movies like The Goonies, Kindergarten Cop were filmed, just to name a couple. But it also just gives it this feeling of it being small, isolated, and I just love how the imagery really played a part into the look and feel of this movie. And then you have the score underneath it all, which is a lot more cheerful, and that combined with the office life situations that I feel like a lot of people will relate to. I've never had a traditional office life scenario. My workplace is very chaotic, and there are a lot of different personalities there that we've never had a traditional relationship of, like, communicating over email and Slack. But those scenes got a lot of laughs in our theaters, which we did watch this in a sold out theater with the director and editor there. So we'll get into an interesting part that almost got me into some trouble during the Q&A. But before I get to that part, I just want to say that this is a movie that it might not have all the bells and whistles. There's not this big elaborate thing you learn by watching this movie. It is kind of just a slice of life movie and a peek into somebody's world that lives like this. And you will watch it and either think, oh, I know somebody in my life who is kind of like Fran. Maybe I should talk to them and approach them a little bit differently now that I know what it's like to be someone like that. Or you'll be like me and think, that is me. I'm glad somebody made a movie that shows what it's like to be socially awkward, a quiet person, and also have some mental health issues. But now we'll get into the controversy that happened. So the director and the editor were present at this screening. We watched it at our favorite local movie theater called the Belcourt here in Nashville. Again, we bring it up all the time. If you ever visit Nashville, you have to go see a movie at the Belcourt because they do events like this where the director who made the movie is there and you can ask them questions after the screening. And me, naturally, I had to get in a question. What usually happens is there'll be somebody hosting the Q&A. They'll ask the big questions, and then they'll go around the theater, which this was sold out. There was 300 people there, a lot of people trying to get in questions. Luckily, I got in the last question. She told me, is your question quick? Because they were running out of time. They had to close the theater. I was like, yes, I will make it quick because I really wanted to know a component about the ending of this movie. And I can't even share you the full clip because this was really the only situation where I could ask this question because everybody in the room had already watched the movie. The director was there. So it was free game to talk about endings because I wasn't spoiling anything. We all just experienced together. And out of everybody who asked the question, no one really brought up the ending. So I have a clip of it because I hit record on my phone, wanted to share it with you. Here is me just asking the question, but I won't give away any spoilers. I think what I love about movies is that people can interpret them in different ways. And the thing I got from the ending was, I'll cut it off right there. But immediately here is the reaction in the room, the reaction from the director. And I had to trim down her answer a little bit because I didn't want to give away the details. But here is the reaction to my question.
If this is how you feel, I will not say another word.
And then it ends a little bit awkwardly. I thought the question was fair game. I wasn't poking criticism at the movie. I just really wanted to know one stylistic approach to how this movie ended and what it means to the story. And the thing was, I almost felt like I got in trouble in that clip. If you listen to it back again, she says that no one's asked this question before. And then I had to bleep the expletive that she said in responding to my question, which wasn't even a full answer that I was looking for, but gave me at least closure on the subject. Just that immediate, like, ooh, like everybody in the room just reacting to that. I was not expecting for it to be such a maybe controversial question. And then just listen to her tone.
If this is how you feel, I will not say another word.
I will not say another blinking word. I felt like when you ask a question in class and the teacher gets upset with you, that is exactly how I felt in that situation, but I had to know. But I found that Q&A was very insightful to the filmmaking process on an independent level. I think Rachel Lambert has a great vision as a director. She got her start here making movies in Nashville. And after watching this film, I'm curious to dive into the other movies she has done and to see what she has coming out next. I also love that they got to talk about her relationship with the editor and what an editor actually does in a movie, which I've talked about before, how I feel like that's an understated position as well. And they describe their relationship of her essentially having this big vision going through the entire movie, and him as an editor will tell her the points that they are missing. So say if they have a transition from the workplace to a bar, he has to look in his mind like, this is what we need to film to get there. So it's like filling in all the gaps. I thought that was a fascinating process. They described it as essentially the editor is the therapist and the director is the patient in the chair. So I don't think this movie is for everybody, but if you like darker comedies with a heavy hand on the drama, I think you will enjoy it. And also, if like me, you're a big fan of Daisy Ridley and want to see her outside of playing the character Ray, she is fantastic in this. I give this movie 4 out of 5 slices of pie.